Welcome back to this Modifying Doom 3 Editor Series, part 2 of our ladders episode. Coming up, how to build a secret ladder reveal sequence using the foundations we built in our ladders episode 1 installment. If you're enjoying this series, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like, dislike, or comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Click the notification button for alerts when we post new content, or visit the channel Tom's World for a full list of all our videos. And now, how to create a secret ladder sequence using simple scripts. So in the Doom 3 game, there's a map in Alpha Labs 2, a little sequence where the player presses a GUI, and sort of this secret ladder comes up from the floor, from beneath the floor, and we want to replicate that just using our little ladder and railing assembly here. So we're going to start off by selecting that little ladder assembly we have, which is that ladder texture as well as all those little bits and pieces of patch matches that make up that physical ladder. So we're just going to select that entire little grouping of things by drawing a brush around them like so, and then we're going to select and we're going to hit all of those. Where are they? Select inside, and then we're going to hide everything else. Well, we don't have to hide everything else. Okay, so when we have all that selected, what we want to do is right click on our XYZ, and we want to hit Func Mover because we want to get this thing moving. So we go to Func and Mover. It's alphabetical order. There we go. Turn that into Func Mover. And we're going to just, while it's selected, go down to our entity window, and we're going to give it a key val because we want to name it. Name tab, and we're going to call it my_ladder. You can call it anything you want. I'm just going to call it my_ladder. Just remember what you called it. And there it is. Okay, there's one other key val we should put in here, but I'm not going to do it right now because I want to show why we have to put it in. But what we're going to do while we have this thing is we're just going to establish a height because at runtime, this is the ladder's finished position. Sorry, this is the ladder's finished position that we want, but at runtime we want it to be hidden under the floor. So what we're going to do is we're just going to determine a height here. Now we want to see where it is right now on the z-axis, and if you look down here when we have it selected, let's see here, hover your mouse over the origin, we can see that we have a z of 72 if you just look down there in the window. I'm going to write that 72 down. And then what we want to do is we want to move that ladder down. So let's select it. Let's just get it under the floor. And then we have, if we hover our mouse over the origin, minus 66. We want to add those two up. So we have 8, 7, 14, 138 height. Let's just get that back. Okay, we just want to establish a height here. This 138 will come in, well, you'll see why we need that in a moment. Okay, so we've got that. Now we want to add a couple more entities here. We want to add a GUI here that the player's going to press, and that'll make this ladder come up. So we're just going to add a func static into the map here real quick. Let's go to top view. Right click on our XYZ. We want to go to func static. Let's see here, it is alphabetical order, func static, there we go. And it's kind of an odd size. We could just draw it, oh boy, what do we want here? Let's go 8 by 8 by 8. Usually kind of defaults to a good size. For some reason it's selecting it that way. Then we're also going to hit a Shift O just to get the origin in the middle of it. Okay, there we go. So there's our func static. And we want to go into our entity window. Let's get rid of this key val that's in here, name my ladder. And we want to assign this a model. And we can do it the old-fashioned way like we've been doing it up to now in past videos by typing it in manually, but let's go with a new fandangled way, or the better way. So we want to assign a model to this func static. So we're going to click down here into models, and we're going to go to map objects, and then we're going to go to Mars City, MC City. It's alphabetical in this case, MC City. And then we want to go desk comp. And we want to go to desktop screen, this guy here, and hit OK. And it'll put those key vals in there for us, and it'll also put in the model. Now we're going to have to flip this model because it's not orientated correctly. Top view, let's go there. Never get this right. Oh, got it right the first time. And let's put it up against the wall here, kind of at head level. Where's head level? And it's looking pretty good. I don't know if that's too high. Might be too high. We'll go down here and put it up against there. Okay, that looks good. Then we're going to select that, and you notice it's a GUI entity. This is important because we don't have to draw a little patch mesh and put the GUI on there manually. So we select that, and then what we want to put in here is a GUI. So let's just get rid of this key val that's in here. Well, we could go delete. Okay, and we're going to click in the key, and we're going to go here to GUIs. Okay, and we want to go to GUIs, and then we want to go to Alpha Labs 2. This is just a nice GUI that helps us control it. So we might as well boost it right out of the map. And then we want Vent Hatch. There we go, and hit OK. All right, so that's assigned there. Let's just make sure. Yeah, it's there. Okay, good. Now what we need, I could put this a little bit closer. There we go. So what we need now is, actually we will use one trigger. So let's just draw that out really quick. Let's go to our textures and grab our trigger if I have it here somewhere, which I don't. So let's just go to media, textures, textures, common, and we want, where are we? Trigger once, where are we? Trigger, there we go. Let's draw a little trigger. Now it's really important that this trigger is a place where the player cannot touch it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the roof and kind of make it small. Now don't forget, it's just a brush right now, a dumb brush with a trigger texture. So we actually have to turn it into a trigger. So while it's selected, we'll right click XYZ. We're going to go to trigger once. Down here, trigger once. There we go. Okay, so it's a trigger once. And we're going to give this trigger once one key val here. So we're going to go in here. And we're going to give a key val of call. Whoops. A key of call. There we go. Oh, call, not call one, call. There we go. Tab. And then we're going to call just M1. And you can call it anything you like, but actually you can't call anything like. You have to name it. Well, for this naming convention, let's just say this. Name it the same as your map. Since my map is M1, I'm going to put the call in here as M1. You'll follow this logic as we go along here. Okay, so let's deselect that. We've got to trigger once. Let's fix that origin. It's not in the center, right? Top, right. I want that origin to be in the center, so Shift O. There we go. That's just tidy mapping. And we're going to select our func static, we're going to select our trigger, and we're going to hit Control K because we're going to connect them because we want our GUI to call that or hit that trigger. We want that trigger to hit that call. And this call is to do with the script, and we'll get that in a moment. So where's our trigger? Our call did not take. Okay, so trigger once, call one, let's hit enter, and there it is there. Okay, so we're calling it. Just checking. Okay, there it is. Done. Okay, so that. Now, the other thing we want to do is put in a speaker because we want kind of that clanging sound, kind of replicate that sequence in Alpha Labs. So let's go to our map. Let's go to a bigger grid size. Right click on our XYZ. Let's go to speaker. Where did I put that speaker? There it is. I can put it down here. Okay. So once we have that speaker selected, we're going to have to assign a sound shader here. So let's do that the new fashion way. Let's clear out these key val fields. Click in the key. We're going to go to sound, and we're going to go to sound shaders. And where are we here? We're going to go to 22 MFS secret ladder. So let's see if we can't find this. Now, I wonder if this is going to be in Alpha Labs 2. Which it probably is. There it is there. Open that. Then we want to go to A2 underscore MFS. There we go. Secret ladder. MFS secret ladder. MFS secret ladder. There it is. And hit OK. That'll assign that sound shader. If you remember, we should be able to preview that sound shader. There it is there. Okay. Let's try to preview that sound shader by selecting it and hitting F9. Okay, there it is. Didn't catch the whole sound. Let's try that again. Select the speaker, F9, F9. Okay, that's the whole sound. That sound takes about 3 seconds. Now, if you remember from speakers, they toggle, and at runtime, they're going to play. So we have to tell this guy to wait for a trigger, because we don't want that sound to play until we trigger it. So we're going to go s_wait for trigger. Let's just make sure that we spelt it right. Looks good. And we're going to hit 1. And let's make sure it took. Okay, so it's waiting for trigger. Okay, so what we've set up here basically is when the player clicks the GUI, it's going to hit that trigger. That trigger is going to call our script, and then eventually our script's going to control our speakers. We'll get into that later, but right now the speaker's off, and when it gets hit by a trigger, it's going to go on. Okay, that's done too. Okay, so let's deselect everything. So I think that's all we need there. That's our map work. So what we got to do now is we got to get into our script. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now that our map work is done, we can turn our attention to the script portion of this sequence. But before we do that, just one little quick thing is just you have to remember the names of things. Now, if you remember, we just stuck in a speaker, and it just gives it a default name of speaker _1. You can name it anything you want. I'm just leaving it that, but just take note of what you called that entity. Similarly, for our ladder, we called it my_ladder. You can call it anything you want, but just take note of what you called it, because you're going to need to know those names. Okay, so we're going to jump out of here. Now, scripting, what's so great about it is you can replace a lot of physical triggers and trigger relays and other things you put on your maps with simple lines of code. It's very convenient, very easy and efficient, great way of doing things. Also, what's really great is you can edit your scripts on the fly. That is, if you edit your script, you don't have to restart Doom in order to see the script changes. We'll see that in a moment. So let's jump out of the editor. And basically, to write a script, you just start off with a simple text file. I just use WordPad on Windows 10, and I popped it open. And you can see not much to it. Now, C++ coders or people that are familiar with C++, you know, this is a joke, right? If you're new to it, it's a little disconcerting. But really, this is a simple example that you can just use if you want to pause it and cut and paste it and retype it, do whatever you want. But this will get us to where we're going. And we're just going to go over it a little bit here and just explain now. Of course, scripting would take probably a video unto itself or a couple of videos. And I can see those maybe coming in the future. But hopefully this will just whet your appetite. Or again, it's just a simple example you can put into your maps if you want kind of a secret ladder. So let's look at this code really quick here. Let's look at the second part first. Basically, we're just naming a function here. So the convention is void space, and then you can name it whatever you want. I decided set up objects. That's kind of a standard. And then a couple of parentheses, and then a squiggly or a bracket. And how we name things in our map and reference them is, if you remember, I named my ladder assembly my ladder. So you reference that by $, no space, my_ladder, the name of your entity. And then we put in a .time function. And that's basically telling this ladder that whenever you move, it's going to take 3 seconds to do that move. And that 3 seconds happens to coincide with that sound shader duration. So that's a good time. And the second thing we want to do in this function is, again, reference that my ladder here, and then we're going to tell it to move. And again, the convention in this case is down. Now, if you remember, we kind of did a bit of measuring there, and we had 138. I have 110 here because that was a run through before, but I'm going to replace that with 138. So 138. All right, so that's done. Now, the rest of this part is standard scripting within Doom 3 is if you just write this function void main, this will tell whatever's here to run at runtime. So we just put in that entry void main, our parentheses, squiggly, set up objects, and the rest of it there. And that's just calling at runtime is telling to run this little function here. So this little function will be run at runtime. And we do that through this void main part here. Okay. Now the second part, this is the part that's actually going to execute when we hit our GUI. This needs to be triggered, in other words, not this, but this. This happens at runtime. This happens when we trigger it. So we're just going to name that function void M1. And I'm keeping some naming conventions consistent here. My map is named M1, so I'm going to call this function M1 as well. Okay, and then the first line here, we're going to disregard this for now. I'm just going to illustrate that in a moment. So whenever you have 2 forward slashes, it's not going to read this little bit of code here. So the next bit's going to be, we're going to reference that my ladder again with that $sign, and we're going to tell that to move up 138, because when it's triggered, we want it to move into that finished position. If you remember, at runtime, it's going to go down 138, so it's going to be under the floor. Then we trigger it, we want to come up 138. So that's that. And then finally, we can trigger our speaker. In past videos, we've usually triggered speaker sounds with a trigger. This time we're going to do it through our script. And we just do that through system trigger, and that's the basic text that you need here in order to trigger that speaker, system trigger. And then we reference that speaker within these parentheses. So again, it's $sign, and we named our speaker 1, if you remember. So we put that there. Okay, so that's that. Then what we're going to do is just save this to desktop. So since I have it on desktop, I can just hit save. Now, what we want to do is we want to take this script and actually, you know what we want to do? Okay, that's fine. So we save it as M1. Okay, one other thing, save as. What you want to do is name it M1, but you also want to put it a suffix of script. Make sure you do that too. I don't think it works otherwise. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. Well, I can do it again, sure. We'll save it to desktop. That's fine. That's going to desktop, right? Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, we'll replace it. There we go. Now, in terms of scripts, if you want them to use, the name of the script has to be same as your map name. So my map name is M1, so my script name is M1. And then it also has to be in the same folder as the map. So this is what we're going to do now. So we're just going to find that file folder. In my case, it's in downloads, Steam apps. I'm looking for the Doom 3 game. It's common, Doom 3, there it is, in base and maps. Okay, and this is where we have our M1 map, which is right here. We want to paste that script into our into this folder here, base maps. So let's just go ahead and, well, actually we could just do this. Slide it over. There we go. So now this M1 script file, if we open it, one we just wrote, it's called M1 .script, and it's named the same as our map, and it's also in our map folder. We can see here, common Doom 3 base maps. Okay, that's all we need to do. The nice thing about scripts is we can mess with scripts and we don't have to restart Doom 3, so we can just go ahead and minimize that. We should be able to go into our editor. We've done all our map work. Now we're going to tell this map here, the game, we want to load the map, and now at runtime what's going to happen, if you remember in the script, that ladder's going to be going down, and we can see it, and that's a problem. We're going to fix that in a second. But basically that script ran perfectly. At runtime that ladder went down 138, so it disappeared behind the door. Okay, so there's that GUI we attached from that sequence in Alpha Labs 2. Sometimes I refer to it as 3, I apologize, but it's 2. So if we click that, that ladder should come up, and there it is, and we can hear that sound. So that's pretty cool. All right, so if we just run that again, map 1. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The ladder is disappearing. Now that would be good if the ladder was in another room or somewhere hidden or something like that, but in our case we can see it right off the hop, so we have to kind of fix that. But yeah, let's fix that right now. So let's get out of here. And as we said, you know, when we set up these entities, we left one key val out of this ladder. So we're just going to go back into that. We're going to put this. We're going to put a key value of hide N1 and hit enter. Now most entities in Doom 3, if you want to hide them at runtime, you just give them that key value of hide 1, and that should do it. We should just be able to hit save, and we should be able to just BSP. And I'll recap here in a moment, but if you're following the flow, you'll see where we're getting at. We're just tidying it up with that hide key val. So let's go back into the map. Now at runtime, okay, it's not there anymore. It's hidden. We can't see it going down. Nice. Okay, we run over. We don't have a ladder here. You can see I cannot climb up here. Okay, but if we press this GUI, and this GUI kind of works like just because it's got a reference to a ladder in it. You could create a custom GUI and knock yourself out. There's other GUIs you can use. This one just happens to work. Just follow through. If you go back, you'll see what GUI we selected here. So when we click that sound, and we didn't unhide it because, if you remember in our script, we deleted that line. So let's go ahead and fix that now. Okay, so let's minimize out of that. Let's go back into that script file. Let's just make sure we have the right one. So, okay, we're in our Doom 3 base maps folder. This is the one we all want to edit, not the one on the desktop here. And we have this line that we put in these 2 forward slashes, so we told it not to read that line. So let's take out those 2 forward slashes and let's just save it so we have it. So what we're saying here, that when we press that trigger, that ladder, we want it to show up. And you simply do that by triggering any entity that's hidden, because we did hidden 1, right? And all we do is we have to hit it with a trigger. So we just go system trigger, that part there, and then reference my ladder. So just to repeat really quickly, at runtime, what we want is that ladder to go down 138 so we don't see it, and we also want it to be hidden, which we did through the key val within the map. Then when we hit the trigger or that GUI, we want it to run this little function, and then that's going to make the ladder appear because we hit it with a trigger, right? Because it's hidden, so it appears, and then it moves up 38, which is what it's doing, and then the system triggers hitting that speaker, so it's playing that nifty sound. So again, if we go back into the map, and let's run it again. Okay, so at runtime, we've hidden the ladder. It's gone down. We don't see it. I suppose if you could technically run fast enough, you could still catch it, but I think you know what I'm getting at. We should be fine. So okay, and then when we hit the GUI, which is going to hit the rest of that function, ladder comes up, that sound plays fantastic, and we should be able to hit the ladder, and there it is. Okay, so there is a little bit of an introduction to ladders and railings, and we controlled our little ladder there with an introduction to kind of scripting, a simple script. You can use that script right off the screen if you'd like to add in a moving little secret ladder to your map. Otherwise, I think we will probably get into a little bit more scripting tutorials as we go down the line. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button, drop us a comment below or a like, dislike, hit the alert button if you want to be notified of new videos. Otherwise, visit the channel, Tom's World. And that's going to give you a list of all of our videos. As always, thank you for watching. Stay well, and one more time for the sequence. And all the best. Thank you for joining me.